Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. India's air defense system successfully thwarted attacks on India's western border. Supreme Court submitted the in-house inquiry report to the President of India. Rohingyas are foreigners and may be dealt with as per the Foreigners Act, says Supreme Court. Karnataka member of the Legislative Assembly, MLA, disqualified after conviction. Jenu Kuruba tribes occupies land in Nagarhole Tiger Reserve of Karnataka. Government prohibits use of certain antimicrobial substances in aquaculture industry. Amid ongoing tensions along the India-Pakistan border, India's air defense system successfully thwarted multiple aerial threats, ensuring not a single breach in its western airspace. At the heart of this successful defense lies Integrated Counter-UAS Grid, a sophisticated shield that brings together multiple surface-to-air missile systems. But before we dive into the missile systems, let's quickly understand how an air defense system actually works. An effective air defense system operates through integrated operations that combine three essential components: detection, tracking, and interception, all coordinated under a central command, control and communication framework, or C3. First comes detection, which involves spotting incoming aerial threats. Once a threat is detected, tracking kicks in, continuously monitoring the threat's movement. Finally, interception is executed, neutralizing the threat before it can cause any damage. For all of this to work seamlessly, the C3 system ensures real-time coordination across all three stages. Without this synergy, the defense response would be delayed or ineffective. Now that we know how the system works in principle, let's look at the key missile systems that played a crucial role in protecting the skies. Let's begin with the S-400 Triumph, acquired from Russia and also referred to in India as the Sudarshan Chakra. It is widely regarded as one of the most advanced long-range surface-to-air missile systems in the world. What sets it apart? It's equipped with a powerful command and control system, phased array radars, and electronic warfare countermeasures. That means complete 360-degree radar and missile coverage, and a defense strategy that is layered, adaptable, and precise. With multi-missile compatibility, the S-400 can track and engage multiple targets at once. As for its technical capability, the system can track targets up to 600 kilometers away and engage them within a range of 400 kilometers. Its altitude coverage spans from as low as 30 meters to as high as 30 kilometers, making it effective against both low-flying drones and high-altitude aircraft or missiles. Now shifting focus to another vital system, the Barak 8, jointly developed by India and Israel. This is a medium to long-range SAM, also referred to as MRSAM or LRSAM. It can fly at Mach 2 speed and is capable of simultaneously engaging multiple airborne targets. The Barak 8 has a range of up to 100 kilometers and is deployed in both maritime and land-based variants. And finally, let's talk about India's very own indigenous contribution, the Akash weapons system. This is a short-range SAM. It's packed with built-in electronic countermeasures, or ECCM, and is capable of targeting multiple threats either in group mode or autonomously. Its engagement range lies between 4.5 to 25 kilometers, and it can operate from an altitude as low as 100 meters to as high as 20 kilometers. With high immunity against both active and passive jamming, the Akash system is fully automatic and delivers an incredibly fast response from detection to kill. It operates on a command guidance system. Together, these three, S-400, Barak 8 and Akash, formed a powerful trio that ensured India's airspace remained unbreached. The success of this operation not only demonstrates technological superiority, but also reinforces the preparedness of India's armed forces in neutralizing aerial threats with pinpoint accuracy.
In a notable development concerning the higher judiciary, the Supreme Court has submitted an in-house inquiry report to the President of India. This report stems from an earlier incident involving allegations related to cash being found at the residence of a High Court judge. To examine the matter, a 3-member inquiry committee of judges was constituted. It is learned that following their investigation, the committee recommended that the President initiate the process for the judge's removal. Let's now walk through the constitutional framework that governs such a process. Under Articles 124, Clause 4 and 217, Clause 1, Subclause B of the Indian Constitution, a judge of the Supreme Court or High Court can be removed by the President, but only on the grounds of proved misbehavior or incapacity. However, the President can act only after both houses of Parliament, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, pass an address for removal in the same session with a special majority. That means a majority of the total membership and at least 2/3 of the members present and voting must support the motion. Further strengthening this process, Article 124, Clause 5 empowers the Parliament to regulate by law the procedure for the presentation of an address and for the investigation and proof. This leads us to the procedure outlined under the Judges Inquiry Act 1968. Under this act, the process begins when a motion for removal is signed by at least 100 members in the Lok Sabha or 50 members in the Rajya Sabha. Then, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha or the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha may admit or reject the motion after due consultation. Once admitted, a 3-member inquiry committee is set up. This committee includes 1 Supreme Court judge, 1 High Court Chief Justice, and 1 distinguished jurist, as determined by the Speaker or Chairman. If the committee finds the judge guilty of misbehavior or confirms incapacity, the motion must once again be passed in both houses with a special majority in the same section. Only then is an address sent to the President for the judge's removal. And that's where we currently stand. The ball is now in the President's court, following the Supreme Court's submission of the inquiry report. Next, we turn to a significant update from the Supreme Court of India regarding the status of Rohingya refugees in the country. In a recent hearing on petitions related to the deportation and living conditions of Rohingya refugees, the Supreme Court has made its stance clear. The Rohingyas are to be considered as foreigners and may be dealt with under the provisions of the Foreigners Act. The Apex Court emphasized that Rohingya refugees cannot seek relief solely based on the UNHRC cards. Now, for a quick context, the UNHRC, or the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, is a global organization mandated to protect refugees, forcibly displaced communities, and stateless people. However, it is important to note that India is not a signatory to the 1951 Convention on Refugees or its 1967 Protocol. So how does Indian law approach such matters? Let's take a look at the statutory provisions in India concerning refugees and deportation. To begin with, India does not have a separate law to handle refugee-related issues. This means that requests for refugee status are considered on a case-by-case basis, guided by a policy of bilateralism. In the legal framework, refugees fall under the broader categories of alien and foreigner. And this brings us to the Foreigners Act 1946. Under Section 3 of this Act, the central government is vested with powers to detain and deport foreign nationals who are staying illegally in the country. In addition to that, there is the Passport Entry into India Act 1920. This act empowers the centre to remove any foreigner who enters India without a valid passport and visa. Here's another important detail. Under Articles 258 Clause 1 and 239 Clause 1 of the Indian Constitution, states and union territories are also entrusted with the powers to enforce these laws. Moving forward to other provisions, while India has not signed the Refugee Convention, it has acknowledged the principle of non-refoulement as outlined in the Bangkok Principles on the Status and Treatment of Refugees 1966. Principle of non-refoulement prohibits transfer of a person from one authority to another when there are substantial grounds for believing that person would be in danger of being subjected to fundamental rights violation. And before we wrap up, let's not forget a key judicial development. In the 2021 case of Muhammad Salimullah and others versus Union of India and others, the Supreme Court reiterated that the rights under Articles 14 and 21 of the Constitution are available to all persons, including non-citizens. However, it clarified that the right not to be deported is not an independent right. It is ancillary or concomitant to the right to reside or settle in India, as outlined under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause E. In a major political development from Karnataka, a sitting member of the Legislative Assembly has been disqualified. This action follows a conviction by a CBI court in connection with an illegal mining case, which has now led to a vacancy in the constituency. This disqualification was made under Article 191 of the Constitution and Section 8 of the Representation of the People Act 1951. Now, turning to the broader legal framework, the Constitution of India outlines specific provisions for the disqualification of sitting lawmakers. Under Articles 102 and 191, a member of Parliament or a member of the Legislative Assembly can be disqualified on several grounds. These include holding an office of profit, being declared of unsound mind by a competent court, being an undischarged insolvent, ceasing to be a citizen of India or voluntarily acquiring citizenship of a foreign state, defection, or being disqualified under any law made by the Parliament. In addition to these constitutional provisions, there are statutory provisions under the Representation of the People Act 1951. According to Section 8 of the Act, a lawmaker is disqualified if convicted and sentenced to 2 years or more for offences such as bribery, rape, promoting enmity, or untouchability. The Act also disqualifies individuals involved in corrupt practices, those dismissed from government service for corruption or disloyalty, individuals holding a contract with the government, those holding key positions in companies with 25% or more government ownership, and candidates who fail to report their election expenses. When it comes to the duration of such a disqualification, Section 8, Clause 3 of the RPA 1951 states that if a lawmaker is convicted and sentenced to imprisonment for 2 years or more, they are disqualified for the entire period of imprisonment and for an additional 6 years after their release. This legal interpretation was upheld in the 2013 Supreme Court judgment in the case of Lily Thomas versus Union of India. The court ruled that disqualification under these circumstances is immediate upon conviction.
In Karnataka's Nagarahole Tiger Reserve, members of the Jenu Kuruba tribe have occupied forest land in an effort to assert their rights under the Forest Rights Act of 2006. The Jenu Kurubas are a tribal community traditionally known for collecting honey and other forest produce. Their recent occupation is not merely a protest. It is a pointed demand for recognition under a law that is specifically intended to protect and empower forest-dwelling communities like theirs. The law in question is officially titled the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers, Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006, and it falls under the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Its core objective is to recognize and legally grant forest rights to scheduled tribes, STs, and other traditional forest dwellers or OTFDs who have lived in and dependent on forest for at least 3 generations before 30th December 2005. Under this Act, several rights are granted. These include rights over forest land up to 4 hectares for cultivation and habitation, rights to collect minor forest produce, grazing rights for livestock, rights to protect and manage forest, and other community rights. All these rights are heritable but not transferable or sellable. They are jointly registered in the names of both spouses if married, and they are exempt from trial clearances under the Forest Conservation Act of 1980. However, it's not just about rights. There are also responsibilities that come with them. Those who receive rights under the Act are expected to protect wildlife, forest and biodiversity, and to safeguard water sources, catchment areas, and other ecologically sensitive zones. The process begins with the Gram Sabha, which is responsible for initiating the identification and verification of forest rights. It also hears claims and passes resolutions. In case of disputes or grievances, individuals can appeal to the subdivisional level committee set up by the state government. Despite its comprehensive framework, the implementation of the FRA has faced numerous challenges. These include unclear identification of STs and OTFDs, low awareness among forest dwellers, bureaucratic delays, legal hurdles, and highly uneven implementation across different regions. As the Jenu Kuruba community continues its assertion in Nagarahole, the situation highlights the ongoing struggle to implement the Forest Rights Act fully and fairly, ensuring that those who have lived in harmony with forest for generations receive the legal recognition they deserve. In a significant development for the aquaculture sector, the Government of India has issued a prohibition order banning the use of certain microbial substances in the industry. This order, notified by the Department of Commerce under the Union Ministry of Commerce and Industry, falls under the Export, Quality Control and Inspection Act of 1963. So, what exactly does this mean? Well, several antibiotics, antivirals and antiprotozoals such as carboxypenicillins, favipiravir and nitazoxanide are now officially banned for use in aquaculture. But why has the government taken this step? The primary reason is the growing concern over antimicrobial resistance or AMR. When antimicrobials are used indiscriminately in aquaculture, it contributes to AMR. And what is AMR? Simply put, it's the ability of microorganisms to resist the effect of drugs, making infections significantly harder to treat. Now let's connect this to a broader implication. India's seafood exports. The presence of antimicrobial residues in exported seafood poses a serious risk of import rejections. These rejections usually occur under non-tariff measures, more specifically under sanitary and phytosanitary measures, also known as SPS measures. So, what are these SPS measures? SPS measures are essentially biosecurity checks that aim to protect human, animal and plant health from pests, diseases and contaminants in food and feed. These measures are governed by the World Trade Organization's agreement on the application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, which came into effect in 1995. This agreement lays down clear rules. It allows WTO members to develop, adopt and enforce SPS measures, provided they are scientific, non-discriminatory and do not unnecessarily restrict international trade. Now, you may wonder, who sets the standards for such measures? The SPS agreement recognizes three key international standard-setting bodies. First, the FAO or WHO Codex Alimentarius Commission, which sets benchmarks for food safety. Second, the World Organization for Animal Health or WOAH, which deals with animal health and zoonoses. And third, the FAO International Plant Protection Convention or IPPC, which looks after plant protection. So, the recent prohibition by the Indian government not only aims to curb AMR, but also aligns with global food safety norms, ensuring that India's seafood exports remain credible and compliant.
In today's place in news, we turn our attention to Iran with its capital, Tehran. Iran's foreign minister is visiting India to mark 75 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Let's now take a quick look at Iran's key political and geographical features. Iran is located in West Asia, sharing land borders with Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan to the north, Afghanistan and Pakistan to the east, Iraq to the west, and Turkey to the northwest. It also has maritime borders with Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. And it is surrounded by the Caspian Sea to the north and the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman to the south. In terms of geography, Iran's climate ranges from arid and semi-arid to subtropical. Major rivers include the Deis, Karkhe, Karun and Diyala. It is home to the Zagros and Alborz mountain ranges and is rich in natural resources like oil, natural gas, coal, chromium, copper, iron ore, lead, manganese, zinc and sulfur. Its highest point is Mount Damawand, located in the Alborz range, and it is the highest mountain on the Eurasian landmass west of the Hindu Kush.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Recently, Competition Commission of India has notified the Cost Regulations 2025, providing new definitions to curb predatory pricing. Predatory pricing is the sale of goods or provision of services at a price below the cost with a view to reduce competition or eliminate competitors. Delhi government approved 5 cloud seeding trials to be implemented by Indian Institute of Technology or IIT Kanpur to combat air pollution. Cloud seeding is a scientific weather modification technique that involves dispersing agents like silver iodide into moisture-bearing clouds to induce precipitation. The Office of the Registrar General, Ministry of Home Affairs, released a special bulletin on MMR in India 2019-21. MMR is the number of maternal deaths per 1 lakh live births in a given time. CERT-IN has issued advisory on DDoS attack threats to critical sectors after the Pahalgam terror attack. DDoS attack is a malicious attempt to overwhelm a target server, network or website with a flood of traffic, rendering it inaccessible to legitimate users. Scientists have identified a new subtype of maturity onset diabetes of the young, MODY. MODY is a rare inherited form of diabetes caused by mutations in certain genes, leading to impaired insulin production or function. The Ministry of Coal signed the Coal Gasification Plant Development and Production Agreement or CGP-DPA with selected private and public sector companies under Category 2 of the CGFIS scheme. Coal gasification is a process where coal is partially oxidized using air, oxygen, steam, or carbon dioxide to produce fuel gas under controlled conditions. The government has revised the Credit Guarantee Scheme for Startups or CGSS, which is implemented under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Under the scheme, credit guarantees to loan extended to DPIIT recognized startups. The Union Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment recently reviewed the implementation of the Scheme for Economic Empowerment of DNTs or SEED program. This initiative, which was launched in 2022, falls under the purview of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.